back, listeners, to the Cosmic Confluence podcast, the space where we explore the invisible threads that connect healing, consciousness, and the human experience. I'm your host, Sana, and today's episode is all about the intersection of awakening, healing, and the collective consciousness. Our guest today is someone whose presence itself feels like a portal, listeners. Meet Blaise Kennedy. He's a spiritual teacher who's been guiding a global community through deep healing, connection, and awakening. Unlike many teachers who focus solely on the personal path, Blaze leans into relationships, interconnectedness, and collective fields of energy. And his work explores how personal healing contributes to global transformation, which we actually all need it right now. So I'm really excited to dive in, and I hope the same for you, listeners. So let's quickly get started. So, Blaze, welcome to the show, and it is an extreme honor to have you with us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so please, before we talk about the topic, would you like to share a bit about your personal journey? I mean, what sparked this, curiosity of exploring awakening, not as a personal journey, but as something which can be globally translated?
Yeah, thank you. Uh, I spent the first 24 years in my life not really considering consciousness or spirituality at all. I had a lot of problems in my early life, challenges, and
Mhm.
the kind of conventional solutions in my life didn't solve any of them. I got really stuck. And just at that point, when I thought I'd kind of messed everything up, I started to realize that there was this untapped thing called spirituality, which I had not considered. And I just decided, it just made sense to me that I was going to spend the rest of my life learning.
Mhm.
And I had a very deep sense of confidence. As soon as I decided I was going to do this, it was like the most natural
Mhm.
choice in the world for me. It felt inevitable. And it, it, it's been a progressive journey ever since then. Awakening is for me a progressive experience. So when you start, you know a little bit, and you take the steps that are in front of you. I did, and it expands and expands and expands. And at some point, I mean, I was 27. I had a really uh, strong experience in my body that
Mhm.
uh, kind of started a very intense transformative process. So I went from kind of trying to awaken, trying to figure out what spirituality was, to having something happen to me that was beyond my control or effort. And I've just followed that process ever since.
Wow, interesting. That is really interesting. Oh, and then thank you for sharing that, Blaze, with all of us. Um, so I do understand, how exactly what led to you speaking of awakening, not just as a personal journey, but something which can be so relational and collective. So, how exactly has this view evolved over time for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I started my journey, relationship has always been part of it. I've always I've been in therapy or had some kind of program or community around me since I was in my early 20s, since I was about 24. And at the time, what I could focus on, what I could feel is that relationships and later teachers and other um, and meditation retreats and all the ways you can engage with a spiritual community, they were a means to an end. Like they were a tool that I could use for me.
Mhm.
And so I would plug into a network and participate in it. It's been lots of different things over time. And my goal was sort of to help myself. And as I went, what happened was my body transformed really intensely. And the sense of separation between me and everyone else started to break down. And so it became harder and harder progressively to think about my well-being as being different or differentiated from the well-being of my family and my ancestors and the people around me and the world as a whole. So progressively, my body felt less separate from life, and I started to think and feel on behalf of a larger field of caring. And the second thing that happened was that there was a very strong in me personal desire to reach some kind of conclusion, to know the truth of life, to be awakened in a way that kind of puts me at ease. I discover the one thing that I'm looking for, and that happened to me. I found my answer. I found what is the nature of reality. And in doing so, all that was really left for me was to participate in life itself. So it's the relief from the search, and coupled with my increasing understanding about how the subtle structure of consciousness works, these invisible threads that you spoke about in your intro, how they function, and how we all depend on them. And so this is the focus of my teaching and work today, something that I love very much.
Those beautiful things. Really, really beautiful. And I guess when we heal in community, the energy feels amplified. It gives you that sense of having a purpose or a mission there to, you know, get going irrespective of the challenges you face.
Absolutely, and that kind of community can work in lots of directions. It can be your immediate sangha or the people that you practice with. Like for me, in the work that I do, people work together. They share together, and what we find is that the things that people are working on or feeling or that they are exploring in themselves are very beautiful to others, even if they're painful, often in spite of the fact that they're painful. And so when we see people working on their part of this collective journey that is their lineage and their body and their life, it's natural to feel love for that because we are one organism. So this means in a spiritual community where people are working together, there's this constant process of mutual inspiration, that being touched or affected by the things that other people are doing and saying and feeling, and conversely, having other people receive you in that, being affected by what you say. And so it
Mhm.
creates like a positive reinforcement. So this is one way. The other is I said to a client the other day, he
Mhm.
hadn't quite noticed this, is that he was talking about the challenges he had in with his child. And we were able to identify that in his lineage, in his family, a couple generations ago, there was sort of extreme suffering, as there was in many parts of the world. What I pointed out to him is that he is in the middle of 4 generations of healing, and that he is a part of this great movement in his family from survival to deep levels of well-being. And when he could see this and feel this, to recognize that his ancestors had survived so that he could take it a little further into well-being, move out of survival and move into higher levels of well-being, and that his child was pushing them even further. There's a great sense of meaning and connection, that
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with our the differences we have between generations. Actually, it's part of one progression. And so it's possible to have that within our own families and with the world as a whole. We are all working together.
I agree. And so many of us, we are carrying trauma, as you mentioned, with this example, um, not just from our own lives, but inherited, ancestral, even cultural. So how does this trauma show up in the collective consciousness, and what role does spiritual practice play in its release?
Hmm. Okay, so where we would start is each human being, they are a spectrum of consciousness. So we have our physical body, we have our subtle energetic experience, and we have our soul, our light, and beyond that, the space of awareness. We are this sort of spectrum of experience. So when most people begin their spiritual journey, they're connected to a narrow part of that spectrum, their thoughts, their physical body, and they're disconnected primarily from the deeper emotions that run through the body, the subtle energy that runs through the energy body, chakra system or nervous system, and the light of their soul. And so if we look at how people forget or how people fall asleep, we have to really look at the process of how we arrive here in this world and how we grow up. So we grow up physically, we grow physically, that's true, but our nervous system and our emotional body, mental body, they also grow. And they grow into something, they grow into a field of energy that already exists. And so this means that our growth and potential is really affected by the energy that is already here. So we are, through the process of living, we are always in relationship to the energy that is here. In the world, in the physical sense, the past goes away. So, if I cut a tree down, it's never going to come back. In the world of energy, it doesn't work like that. Unprocessed energy stays around forever. It creates a kind of uh, density in our world that us as children have to grow through. So as we are growing up, we are both shaped by the energy that is all around us, and eventually we become, through the process of living, we become carriers of the energy. So in our nervous system, in our felt sense, in our body, we can start to pick up as adults how I feel, and we can actually track the experiences of the people that come before us in our own body, in our own consciousness. They are here in that same field of energy where we feel our joy or sadness or the love that is in our heart. So over the course of life, we have accumulated, if you look at human history, we've accumulated so much unprocessed emotion, so much so that preceding generations didn't even really recognize it was there. It's only in the last, especially in the Western world, in the last century that people began to realize that there was trauma, that there was stored, unprocessed experience in the individual
Mhm.
in in our ancestry. There were events in the 20th century that make this really clear, like the Holocaust or when soldiers come home from war. And we start to realize, oh, wow, these large scales events have a tremendous impact on the first and second generations. So if you wanted to discover this in yourself or heal it in yourself, you would learn to access your nervous system and to feel your own developmental process. And everything that has ever happened in your life is present in your nervous system, and either in an integrated fluid way or in a stored, unresolved, unintegrated way. So we learn to integrate our own development. And the more that we do this, the more we recognize the presence of the world that we have grown up in, that it is reflected, the world that we have grown up in is reflected in our own nervous system. And we can begin to speak that experience. We can name and relate to that experience. There's another process that I would suggest that when we look at collective trauma, it's the process of incarnating. As we learn to go deeper and deeper into our consciousness and our body, we access this sort of stream of light that I would call the soul or light body. And
Mhm.
as we access this stream, this is another way in which we get access to all this material that exists in this stored energy of the earth, because our soul actually passes through it. So these are the two ways that I would suggest you can notice it. One is by sort of just feeling your body and expanding the in your understanding or the clarity of the life that you have lived and the fact that the world is stored in your body. But secondly, you can, by accessing the light of your soul, which you can learn to feel and relate to, you can navigate through this dimension of energy and find really the whole history of the earth is here. So
Wow.
but if I just add like before we go on, I know I'm saying a lot that's kind of technical, but
Mhm.
if you look at if because there's this field of heavy unprocessed energy that every person is being born into, for me, this is the cause. This is why people are asleep and why we need to wake up. So if we have for the average, for the most people, myself included, like in my story, you go 24 years of your life being unaware or unconscious or forgetting the nature of reality and all of the subtle structures of consciousness. It's because the process of arriving into a field that has this density that is unprocessed causes us to go to sleep. It is the mechanism of trauma that when we're overwhelmed or we have to move through this density, we have to shut down around it. So this is the cause of our collective trauma is the cause of our current spiritual state on this planet in general as well.
Mm, that is really, really profound. It really shifts the perspective, please. And now let's talk about manifestation. So, from your lens, how does aligned intention it work within that collective energy field? Because everyone will have their own story, their own journey. So, how exactly are we, if I can say, co-creating reality beyond just our personal desires or wishes?
So from the first person perspective, like from my body, as I sit here and present, I have noticed my thoughts, my feelings, my sensations. The first question is, how do we connect to the things that really matter to us?
Mm.
So from the personal perspective, as I sit here right now, if I want to have a life that is in line with my highest potential, the life that is right for me, and to express that and achieve that, I have to be connected to my body and my energy and my emotions. This is what helps me navigate the world and know what feels right to me, and also the light of my soul, which comes with information, which comes with my spiritual gifts and my deeper understanding and direction in life. So the first thing is that when we want to manifest something, we have to have a source of deep motivation within us to manifest. So pretty much everything on this planet that's worth doing, that is meaningful, takes a lot of work and conviction and consistency, from your career to starting a family to athletic pursuits. All this stuff takes a tremendous amount of motivation. So the first thing is, when we do the work of healing and embodying and integrating this light into our consciousness, the light of our soul into our consciousness, then we get access to a very powerful source of motivation and an ability to navigate through life. So the first thing is, just on a really practical sense, when I can feel my motivation constantly, when I can feel what is and is not right for me, when I can recognize what matters to me and like the why I am here,
Mhm.
then I can navigate life from here. This is how I make decisions in life. Now, structurally, from like a higher perspective, like how does life come to be manifest in the first place? Well, and for me, that's a very technical question that I get more and more refined on. And to even suggest that the world that we can manifest, that we can co-create reality. I think it's very important to recognize, to understand this. Some people may believe it or have an intuition that this is true, but our world right now broadly speaking, has a materialist model where what we think of the foundation of reality is the material world. And in this model, it doesn't make a lot of sense that we can control or affect reality by our state of consciousness or emotions or any of these things. So it's a big leap. In many ways, the ancient systems all reflect this, but for our culture now, it's a big leap to suggest that this is possible. So in awakening, one of the things we're helping people to recognize is that life is consciousness. The material world is not the foundation of experience. Actually, consciousness is the foundation of experience. The physical world is an expression of consciousness. So as people become more and more, uh, as they feel this reality, so at first this is an idea, but progressively as you feel this reality, more and more you recognize that the governing principle of the governing mechanics of what happens, of what occurs in all of the planes of reality, including the physical world, is actually going to be guided by consciousness. And as you learn to recognize the subtlety of your consciousness, specifically the dimensions of light, you realize that there's that in the subtlety of consciousness, there's a kind of field of all potential. All possible experiences are sort of stored in a sort of vast field of potential. It's a very subtle, unformed reality. And ultimately, the way that we manifest is that our body consciousness, our personal vehicle of body and soul,
Mm.
is aligned, is able to resonate with the potentials that exist in the subtlety of consciousness, and we we call into alignment our personal experience and the potentials that already exist in the subtlety of reality. So to manifest our job is, at this level or in this way, our job is always to clarify our vehicle so that we are not manifesting less conflict. So yes, there are these things that I really want, and that are really true and really powerful. But then there's also our shadow. There's also the things that we carry that are painful or negative. And the more that we clarify the things that are painful and negative in us, the more we navigate purely, not with increasingly less conflict, we navigate towards the things in consciousness that are most aligned with us. So as we go through life, again,
Mhm.
this process of cleansing or healing is very important in helping us uh, helping us manifest the life that is most in line with our highest potential and doesn't reflect uh, the pain or the negativity or the things that we need to learn from. So this journey of moving through life and continually clarifying oneself is the journey. That is our path, is to continually refine our consciousness and align ourselves with higher and higher potential realities.
Mm. And yeah, it definitely looks like technical, but one thing which I absolutely loved is, many people, we sometimes associate having vision boards or wish list with manifestation and alignment, energetic alignment, but it's more about resonance and, of course, clarity. And you rightly said, I completely agree with that. Consciousness, it's about the expression. So that really, really aligns with, sometimes what I have experienced. Especially when I am in alignment with something, even small intentions, they ripple outward in big ways. So that is really, really, that really makes it clear, Blaise.
Yeah. And I would say that whatever the technique, including vision boards and uh, journaling and setting intentions, if they are deeply true for us, then they are helpful. If we feel them and just clarify our direction, there's so many tools that are helpful to
Yes.
this process. Just my emphasis is that we need deep feeling and alignment with that throughout our whole being.
Right. That's right. So, uh, before we wrap up, please, you have been teaching for now over 5 years, building a truly global spiritual community. So, what have you learned about collective energy in the digital space? And how exactly do you see the future of this?
Yes, I have been. teaching for 5 years, and I have learned so much. So when I started teaching, I
Mhm.
taught my own path. I taught what I'd experienced. And my experience as a teacher is that I learn by actually absorbing the experiences of other people
Mhm.
and feeling the world through you. So when I sit with people, even if it's in a digital space, I'm not telling them about my life. I'm not telling them what I think they should do. My job is to feel through the transparency of consciousness, to feel them and help them feel themselves more deeply. So through working, every person that I meet, my world expands, my reality expands. And what I realize is, again, I'm not here to teach my path. I'm here to create a structure or a framework that helps
Mhm.
people feel their path and be related to each other. And so the more that we do this, the more information pours into the world and into my life. So what have I learned about collective consciousness? I learn every day. I learn what is happening in my world because people share their feelings and experiences with me and their life history. And I learn about the diversity that is childhood. I learn about the diversity, which is our strategies to deal with trauma and life. I learn about the diversity of intelligence
Mhm.
and the ways in which people uh, deal with life, but also ways in which people wake up. So instead of thinking that everyone's going to go through the same steps that I do, I broadened my understanding of life to realize that people are going to go through their own unique journey and their own unique process. And what is most important is that there is a structure that can support that process and that can see it. So I don't focus so much on what I think individuals should do. I focus a lot on what resources do we need to put around people to help them know themselves more deeply. So primarily, that is the resource of relationship, of deep connection, of other people being able to relate and see through each other, feel into each other, and support the subtle movements that are trying to occur through us. So again, I said that at first I learned how to do this, and then I started to learn about my world.
Mhm.
But this kind of learning goes beyond the world, that now, like, what I am learning is that the entire universe is actually part of the collective consciousness, that the intelligence that the universe moves exists well beyond the boundaries of the earth or the human consciousness. And increasingly, it's becoming really important to me to integrate all of the structures into the universe as they arrive through our incarnational process together. So you can think about the earth as like the earth is being light is pouring into the earth from the entire universe. That is happening every day by each birth and life. Each person who exists is a stream of light into the earth. And so my view has grown. Previously, I would say what I really wanted to do is lighten or
Mhm.
soften the field of energy that is our world, that is our ancestors, that is our family, that is our childhood, all of the things that happen in Earth. This field of energy that we could call the fifth dimension. Previously, I would say that was my primary focus, and that is still my focus, but it has expanded. My goal is to get as much light from the universe, from all over the universe, to pass through this field and into the world. I'm trying to get as much light as I possibly can into the world. So these collective fields, whether it's our own personal nervous system or our family system or our culture, like these fields can be integrated, organized, related,
Mhm.
conscious, and create a healthy fabric, or they can be disintegrated or dissociated or fragmented. And so the more integrated these collective fields are, the more light can pass through them, the more they become a holder, a vehicle for light. So this is my growing understanding of my job is to create fields of energy on Earth that can hold light that comes from beyond the Earth.
Wow, it's wild. It's really wild. Please, and thank you so much for, first of all, bringing your presence, your story, and your light to Cosmic Confluence. If our listeners would like to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Go to my website, blaisekennedy.com. I'd be happy to talk to you about your process and yeah, see if we have a place where we can work together.
Absolutely. And I'll be mentioning the details and the link in the show notes for our listeners. And thank you so much once again, Blaise, for reminding that awakening isn't about escaping the world or cutting ourselves from the rest of the world. It's about deepening into it together, of course. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And to all of my beautiful listeners, if this conversation sparked something within you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And of course, healing isn't personal, it is planetary. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and keep flowing with the cosmos. Thank you.